Yellville in the Dark Days of Civil War by C.S.A. Turnbo. This is one of North Arkansas's noted places. Part of the town is located on a bluff of Crooked Creek and is the county seat of Marion County. The first settlement by white people here dates back to the early 30s. The beautiful groves of timber, ornamental trees, handsome dwellings, and substantial businesses and houses form a lovely picture. The surrounding scenery is fine and romantic, and the rippling waters of Crooked Creek flow just along the south side of the town, which helps make the view of the town and vicinity more beautiful. Yellville is increasing in size and business every year, and has been an important place of trade ever since its existence as a white man's town. The first railroad meeting in Marion County was held by citizens at this place in 1860 for the purpose of agitating the coming of a railroad through the picturesque hills of northwest Arkansas. Since the close of the Civil War and after the opening of the mines in Marion and adjoining counties, the citizens of Yellville and other towns in North Arkansas have been offering inducements from time to time for construction of a railway for the benefit of businessmen, farming class, and the people of other occupations, and now the rumbling train and the shriek of the iron horse is heard at Yellville and up the valley of Crooked Creek, which is encouraging to the merchant, the miner, the stock dealer, the farmer, and other classes that stand in need of railroad facilities. Where Yellville now stands, or of a part of it at least, was once occupied by an Indian village called Shawneetown. While this village was being evacuated by red men and the white men took possession of it, which began about 1832. Productive farms and prosperous people are found all around this little North Arkansas city. Yellville was named for Colonel Archibald Yell, a soldier who commanded an Arkansas regiment of gallant men in the war with Mexico, and was slain by a Mexican lancer in the hard-fought fight of the Battle of Buena Vista, while so nobly defending the rights of his country. The people of the noble state of Arkansas, and those of Marion County in particular, should not forget Colonel Yell and his regiment of Arkansas boys who were so willingly offered their service to preserve the honor of the United States and the pioneers of Texas. Arkansas ought to build a monument at some place in the state in memory of her heroic men who fell in war. If any of us cherish an ill feeling engendered by war, let us drop it, and treat the memory of all old soldiers alike who belong to the state of Arkansas, whether they served in the Mexican War or on either side of the bloody conflict between the states. Yellville was a quiet little town when the Civil War with its fiery darts struck the state of Arkansas. During that awful strife, nearly every building in town was reduced to ashes. To give an idea of the destruction of property in Yellville and neighborhood, we will make a brief statement of the burning of the town as gleaned from a reliable source. There is a hill south of Crooked Creek known in pioneer days as Bald Jess, which was named for Jess Everett, who at the time of the Everett-King War in Yellville would frequently ascend to the top of this hill and watch the village to note if there were any disturbance in town between the two factions. If there were any trouble in sight, he would stay away from the village until quiet prevailed. But if the villagers seemed to be at peace with each other, he would venture into town. Mr. Price Millam, who was a resident of Yellville and who was a merchant here at the breaking out of the hostilities, informed me that when part of the town was set on fire, he was standing on top of this same hill and saw 13 houses burned down at the same time. The beautiful little town, where once was life and activity, vanished in smoke and cinders. It was a sad day for the surviving residents to view the dense volumes of black smoke as it floated high above the burning town and drifted over the crest of neighboring hills. Now, this is not written to stir up sectional strife or cause old sores which have healed to break out afresh, and to hear the moans of the dying and witness the devastation and destitution of the beautiful sunny land. Far from it, but to give warning to the future generations to look and reflect before they leap. Civil war should never be encouraged or tolerated in our land and country. If our great republic has to engage in war, let it be from a foreign foe, and never that unless it is compelled to save its honor and integrity. It is much better to keep out of war if we can avoid it in an honorable way than to plunge into it uncalled for. If war must come, let it be from a foreign enemy and not against ourselves. Just think of the hundreds and thousands of men who enlisted in the armies of the blue and the gray from 1861 to 1865, who perished from exposure on the march and in the camp and on the field of slaughter. Remember, these men were from the North and South. They were Americans. Yet they fell out over a matter that could have been set right without the force of arms. But the agitators of the North and the South could not be satisfied until the people of the United States divided against themselves. And as a result, that was a bitter war that was stirred up, and the men of the North and the South met each other on the battlefield and fought it to a finish. I shudder every time I think of it. In civil war, or war between the nations, many individuals become spectators and grow rich through crookedness, while others have to stem the current of battle, and the mass of people living in the territory involved are forced to bear the horrors of destitution and suffering imposed by the contending armies. What a grand thing it would be for all nations to be at peace, one with another. And it ought to be that people of every nation should live in peace with each other. But as long as one class of people or nation domineers over another, there will be strife, contention, strained relations, and rumors of war, which may ultimately culminate in real war. It should be the duty of rulers of civilized nations to promote peace among their people by having them taught the principle of true Christianity, and all those that would willingly accept the love of God would lay down their carnal weapons and put on the armor of God and do all they could to prevent war and its awful results. It should be the desire of everyone, from the highest official to the humblest citizen, to strive for a good government, independent of some of the policies and political parties. There is too much craving and pulling for the almighty dollar. Money is all right in its place, and it is all wrong when it is improperly used. In many cases, the dollar is used to the advantage of one class of people and the disadvantage of another. Too much politics and hunger and greed for the accumulation of money creates dissatisfaction among the people, which usually brings on bad results. Now, let us return to our subject. I well remember being at Yellville one day in the month of July, 1861, when a call was made for volunteers to join the Confederate Army. A company of men raised in Marion County in the southern part of Taney County, Missouri, were present. Those patriotic citizens had volunteered their services to defend the Southern cause. Their commanding officer was William C. Mitchell, whose company afterward formed part of the 14th Regiment of the Arkansas Infantry. Captain Mitchell marched his company back and forth through the streets to the music of two violins in the hands of Dan Coker and Yellville Bill Coker, who were members of the company. As the soldiers marched along with the colors flying at the head of the column, both officers and men extended invitations to the men present to enlist in their ranks. A number of those gallant young men responded to the call of their friends and fell in line to shed their blood for the sunny South. Most of them gave up their lives on the battlefield or fell victims to exposure in the wintry ravages of disease. In many cases their bones repose in unmarked graves. Oh, let us not forget to honor their names by remembering their patriotism in a call they believed was right. I recollect a week's stay at Yellville in war days. Our regiment, the 27th of Arkansas, with Colonel White's and Shaver's commands, were on their way from Pocahontas to join General Tom C. Hinman's division at the mouth of Mulberry River. We arrived at Yellville on Wednesday evening at 3 o'clock on the 22nd of October, 1862, and pitched our tents in the field on the opposite of the creek from the town, where we rested a week and procured supplies. This camp was known as Camp Adams. On the day of our arrival here, we found the town crowded with Missouri Confederates who were drawing their pay in Claib Jackson money, and this sort of currency circulated plentiful among those warm-hearted men. Their paymaster occupied Isaac Wilson's hotel, and this is where the soldiers were receiving their money. Now, on the second night after we reached here, a remarkable snowfall struck us, and it lasted until Friday morning the 24th. The snow was 6 inches deep, and it is the greatest snowfall on record so early in the fall in north-central Arkansas. It went off quickly, however, and the weather turned off bright and warm again. The majority of men in our company lived in Marion County, and the camp was always full of relatives and friends bringing supplies of needed woolen clothing from the home spinning wheels and hand looms.